Well, hello my felting friends, welcome back to this week's video. I do hope you liked the new introductions. I've got different ones for most weeks, so that should be fun. And so this week we're carrying on with the Enchanted Forest series. This one was voted for in the post section. I run a poll for what was going to do for each month now up to Christmas. And a lot of people wanted the fox with the key, so that's what we have this month. I don't know what the key is going to unlock or anything else, so you will have to vote in the next poll for that one. So this week we're going to start with the fox, and I'm doing my usual thing. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know what I'm doing here. I'm just building up the background because we're still in the forest. But we've gone from the nice little open glen with the sunlight streaming through and the big standing stones, and we've crossed across the little meadowy bit and we've gone back into the forest, and it's a little darker in here, but it's not scary, it's just a little darker. So we have some fireflies and things in this bit, and we're walking along and we thought we'd stop for lunch. We've got our nice packed lunch and we've stopped for lunch. We've sat down on a tree stump and up to us comes this fox, and he's carrying a key and he wants us to take the key. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to share our lunch with the fox, and then we're going to have the key and we're going to go and find out what it opens next month. So at the moment you can see I'm just doing the simple layering. We've started off with some light colour in the middle, light blue, and then we've gone for a little darker blue on the outside edges mixed in with the light blue. But a lot of that's going to be covered up, so you just want some variation around the edges. That's what we're doing. And at the moment we're just laying in a basic green colour. It looks a bit different colours, but it's just that my wall is a blend of different coloured greens. But any green will do. Just mix some up or some yellow in with your green, that'll be fine. And just at the back here I've taken some of the sky colour, the darker sky colour, and I've mixed that with a bit of the blue and green together. So I'm just putting that on the edges at the back. So we're going to sort of blend this background in, because again we're still going to have trees, and if you'll see my other ones, this is the distant darkness for the trees. It's just shadows really. So if you've done any of my other ones, you'll understand up to this point what we're doing. So I'm going to fill in all around the fox now with a green colour. And I don't mind going over some of the fox edges because we can put the fox back in afterwards. I won't cover him right up because I want to know where he is in the picture, as you can see, but I've just gone over his edges a bit. And this is all just a mishmash of the greens I've got. And then in a minute we'll go back and we'll add some other greens to this, which is what I'm doing here. Whatever greens you've got, I'm just laying it really thinly because I want to break up the green that's underneath, and I want some patches of lights and darks. And this is almost the very last bit of this particular green I possess, so I thought I'd use a little bit on here. It's quite a bright green, but we will tone it down and things in a minute. But you can use any greens. We're just going for the dappled and mottled look. And because we're going to have some fireflies in this, I've got some very, very bright green. It's a very yellowy green, and I'm putting a little bit of that in because I want the grass to reflect back some of the light from the fireflies and things. But you'll see where they go, or you can put them where you like, but you'll see where I put them and why I've got the light where it is a bit later on. But again, you can see I'm really just making it mottled. So now I've got a blue and blue-grey kind of mix. You can just see it on the left-hand side, and I'm just putting in some distant trunks of trees here. Most of this will get covered up, so don't worry too much about it, but do put them in. Again, if you've seen any of my others, you'll know that these just are distant trees. They just give you that little bit of a look of trees, and that's what you want in the very distant background. So I'm not worried about branches or anything, just putting some trunks in. And as the trees get closer to me, I will obviously add more brown. They're going to become what look like actual trees. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, this is how I like to do my trees. And I just put some wool down. I will mix the wool together, so I'll have 2 browns or 3 browns in that pile. And then I will just lay it down like this, give it a twist, because it makes the trunks look a bit more interesting. And then I will just pull it apart like this and twist it and make some branches out of it. So on the side I'm working on now, we'll have 2 trees that are close to us here. So that's slightly further away, and then we'll have one that's a bit closer. Now between these 2 trees that I'm going to put here is going to be a firefly lanterny thing. So that's why I've put some quite bright colours on that side of the tree trunk. So we're going for some yellows and light greens, things like that. Just make it thin. You want to be able to see the actual darker colour through the lighter colour that you're putting on. Then we're just going to build some roots and things like that. I have made this video a little bit longer again because some of the comments on the last video were that people were quite happy to have the videos a little longer, so they could see a bit more of what I'm doing, so I don't have to cut out quite so much. So I've only made it maybe 40 minutes, only 10 minutes longer than the previous ones, because I normally aim for about half an hour, but if this is too long you'll have to let me know. Or if you'd like me to do it for like an hour's worth of video, I'm happy to do it, but you need to let me know this, because I don't want to bore people if it's too long for them, or you don't have the time to sit that long and watch something. So I'll leave it with you to let me know in the comments if you'd like them any longer, or you're happy with them as the length they are. So again, I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm just building a tree that's even a bit closer to me now. So what you need to do as well is when you've watched this video, go to the posts section under this video. See, it says post and videos and home and all that stuff. If you go to posts, there'll be the poll there for what the next choice is for next month's video. So if you'd like to have some say in where we go with the key and things, then pop down to the post section and have a vote. Quite nice, because I don't know where we're going either now. So here I'm just doing the same thing I did on the other tree, and I'm just adding some lighter bits where the light will catch it. So I don't want to cover the whole tree in it, just the edges like that. Because I say the little lantern, if you think about it, it's not actually a lantern, it's like a glowing firefly thing, will be in between those 2 trees. And then I want the roots to have some shadow, so I'm going up the sides which wouldn't get the light with some darker brown and just building in some shadow to the roots there. And this is the same darker colour I've used for the shadow, and I'm putting it on the branch at the back there. Well, to be honest, I don't know whether it's a branch or another tree. I just liked it there. So right, so I'm now putting on some leaves. This is just the first layer, so you just grab yourself a green and pull it very thinly, and we're just going to lay it all over. We'll do the same again on the other side in a minute, but I'm just pulling it thinly, as you can see, and laying it over the branches. And I want to be able to see the blue colour through it. So we're just, at the moment, we're just giving hints of green across these trees. And I say, if you haven't seen my videos before, you'll see now when you look in the distance that those trunks look like distant trees, which is why you do it in like the pale grey blue kind of colour. So we're going to do exactly the same on this side now. We're going to build up a couple of trees, add some light, and then put some pale green over them. Putting on some thicker branches. I'm not worried about all the little thin ones or anything at the moment. And there again, we're going to have a little light down there as well. So I want to add some light. I'm using light yellowy greens really, rather than a orange or anything. So now I've got some bluey grey and some green mixed together, and I'm just laying that over the top again, because that's going to look a bit like a little bit of the shadow between the leaves and things. So just keep building it up, and then in a minute, when we've like that, you see, so I've got some light greens, some dark greens, remembering now where the light's going to catch the leaves, so we're going to put some lighter colour there, and then in a moment we're going to put some more branches on, and we're going to put those over the leaves that we put there. And that will push that part of the tree into the background. And what I want to do is I'm going to have like an archway, so this is why I'm making things meet more or less in the middle, at the top. You don't have to have all the branches there, but we want a few to go that way because I'm going to have leaves right across the top of that. So we're going to put some of these branches in, and then we'll put a few leaves over the top of those as well. And this is just a little bit of the lantern light that's going to catch the tops of the branches there, or sorry, the bottoms of the branches. And then we're back to popping down some more leaves. But you can see how thinly I take it. Just very thin wispy bits. So this is just a little more shadow and things. Now here I've got some dark, some green and some little bit of black mixed in with the green, and I'm just putting some shady bits down here, but I want the green in it as well because I don't want a solid black. So this is just where some of you have dips and ridges and things in the ground. You can put these anywhere you like. I'm just keeping it facing towards the fox a bit. If you look, they're kind of all pointing a bit towards the fox. Now I have some brown because this is path colour, so I'm going to put, it's like there's a bit of mud or something, so I'm just putting little patches of that next to the dark lines just so it looks like the path's dipping in and out. Which might not make sense now, but when we put the fox in, you'll see it makes a little bit more sense. Because he's actually sitting on the path. So just put a bit of brown and that sort of thing anywhere you like, really. Just keep it thin and not too much. So this is the next tree going in. And I build this in exactly the same way. I just want this one on the edge of the picture, that's why it's like that. So we're going to have a little bit of dark on the very edge, so that's the shadowy side, and then we'll add a little bit of lighter and that on the other side in a minute. Not forgetting, of course, we'll have some roots as well. And there we are, back to adding a bit of light, because the light from across the way would cast its light onto this tree a bit as well. So it is only midday, but it's quite dark in this woodland here. But if you look off into the distance, you can see the bright light shining through the trees. And this canopy area, you just need to build it up whatever it looks right to you, but the best way to do it is always to keep it in thin layers, and then you never just get a big blobby lump, and it'll look much nicer. Now I've cut my fox out because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to redraw it on there, so what I do is I cut the picture out. Oh, talking of which, if you want the drawing, it's in the description box below the link, and you can just go help yourself, it's free. So what I do is I pin the fox down, and then I'll just go around him in fox colour all the way around, and then I'll fill it in. I'll take it all off and then I'll just fill it in. It's much easier to do that. There you go. And I've just started to fill it in, so I've got a fox colour. I haven't mixed anything with it yet, but I will mix colours into it later. So I've used this foxy colour, and then the tail and all the bits that look white, I haven't actually used white. I've used a very pale cream because I want to go in later and add a little bit of white highlight, and if I start with white, I've got nothing left to highlight with. So I do it with just a really pale cream, and any of the shadows are the fox colour mixed with either some dark brown or black, but be careful with the black, you don't want it too heavy. And I have a slightly lighter orange that I'm using for the highlight colours. But if you've got the same fox colour, just mix it with a bit of yellow and white, and you'll get a similar colour. So what we're doing is we're highlighting where the light from the lantern would hit the fox, which is on his back mainly, and the bit of the top of his head and a bit of his face. So if you're unsure, then my suggestion, bearing in mind you need to know where the light's coming from, so you do know that with the lantern, but it might pay you to get a picture of a fox and just see how his fur goes and things like that, because it might help you a bit to actually build him. So I'm using the dark colour to, it's almost like drawing him in. And that's why I started at the bottom. I thought I'll work my way up from the bottom, because I do have some of the lines left that are on my picture, and I can use those and help to build it in going upwards. I wanted to leave his face till last because frankly it scared me. I wasn't even sure I was going to get him to look like a fox. So that was a bit. I'm doing a hopefully next week's picture will be a puffin. It was a request which I'm very happy to have. Someone suggested doing a puffin, so at the moment it's sitting on my desk half done because it's fighting me. It'll turn up, I'll show you whatever it is, but it's fighting me at the moment. Some of it looks like a puffin. I'm sure if anybody has actually done any drawings or paintings, they'll know what I mean. But I'll get there in the end with it. I'll be there. It'll be there for next week, hopefully. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm literally just filling in. So remember that really the left side is going to be the lighter side, and the right side of the fox is going to be the darker side. And this is a cream colour again that I'm just using here, not white. And this is all carded wool. I've not used any roving or tops. And he does have a little bit of shadow under his chin, which is what I'm putting in here, because I'm trying to make it, I want to define his face from his chest, because the face is a similar colour. His jawline and that is white or pale coloured. So I need to make sure that that's marked in, which is why I'm putting some shadow area in there. I will be putting a bit more as well later. But I don't want to lose his face shape into the bib he's got. So at the moment I'm still really just blocking in the colours. I just think it's, for me, it was going to be easier to mark in all the areas and then go back and do the things like the shading and things like that. And I did actually use just straight black going up his little legs, because in this area where he's standing, this little bit is quite shady, so I didn't want too much of anything. So I thought if I just leave it straight black, I could have mixed it with a bit of brown, but I just wanted it to really stand out as the dark coloured legs. And I thought if I mix brown with it, it might not stand out as much, which is why I just used the straight black for this one. And I'm just shading in around the edges of him, because he's casting a little bit of a shadow that would be underneath him rather than sticking out. So what I did eventually was I darkened around him on this side of him, not the other side, and then I added a little bit of light as well, but you'll see in a minute what I do. So this is just a hint of white mixed in with some yellowy orange fur colour, because this is like his belly fur that's just kind of showing a little bit, but it's kind of mixed in with the fur from his leg. And then I've taken the same cream colour that I've used for his bib, and I've just added some slightly darker colour. So I've got some shading up between his front feet. And then you saw me cut that, because this is carded wool, I don't have the strands like I would have if I was using roving. So, and I wanted to be able to flick it out to the sides, so I'd have little bits. So that's why I cut it a bit. And then I could just flick out some little strands, and it looked a bit more like fur that way. Because if I hadn't cut it and I was just pulling it to try and cover it out, it wouldn't have done it, because it's all knitted together. So I cut his head because I wanted just to work on his head now, and that's what that line was. That was the shadow under his chin and that. We'll soften that line a bit later on. Now I don't know whether I showed it for some reason, I'm not sure. But these ears do also have a little bit of cream fur in them. So if you don't see me putting it on, I do add a bit of cream fur to them later on. Just some wispy hair in his ears really. But I put the dark bit in first because obviously I've got to build up the rest of the colours for his ears around that. And that again is black, I've just used straight black in there. So the inner edges of his ears were lighter in colour, which is what I'm doing here. And then I will later on, as I say, go back and put a little bit of, if you have a look at a reference picture of a fox's ears, you'll see there's a little bit of fur that kind of shields their ears. And I just went and put that back in. So again, I'm using the black here as well to do around the edges of his ears. It's quite unusual, even my dogs are being quiet today. Normally young Sprite is jumping about somewhere. So this is a bit lighter, I'm just doing a little bit round his nose and round his eye. So again, just working on where the light would catch his coat. And I've done it like this. I've pulled some strands and worked in different colours because I wanted to try and get a bit more of a fur effect around there. It needs to be darker because that's the shady side, but I was trying to pull it, as you can see, to have some loose bits on the end so I could move them around. So I felt in one end and then I kind of move around the other end with my needle and hope it looks a little bit like fur. Really just trying to get some texture around there. You need it to be a bit darker. And I've done the same in here. I've used the same dark colour and I'm just moving a little bit around so that I haven't got just a straight line. I just don't want like a pencil line look around his tail. I want it to look a bit more shadowy. Again, if you look, I'm laying it on at the angle where the fur would kind of grow away from the tail to try and give it some fluffy look. And little bits you can see me adding there are actually white because I just want some tiny bits of highlight on the creamy coloured areas. Trying to work out where to put his nose now. And that again is just a black blob, but I used the cutout head to make sure I'd got it in the right place. Like I say, you're definitely going to be better off if you can find a reference picture of a fox, just so you can really have a look at its markings and the way its fur lays and things like that. So, teeny weeny little mouth going on there now. And then I just took it up, that little centre line up to his nose. So now I've cut his eyes out, as you can see, and I'm going to fill in there with black. And then I will build his eyes up from that point. Once I know I've got them in the right place and they're basically the right size. Because then all I need to do is put a blob of brown in, so you can still see the black, but a blob of brown and then another blob of black, getting smaller, and then a little blob of white. So here we're just going to add some little mushrooms and toadstools and things. So I've just got a creamy beige little thing for the stalks. And then pop on as many as you want, and then you can have brown or red tops to these. I've just obviously put some red ones on. So I've put a darker red, and then I will put a little bit of lighter red on the side where the light's going, and then in a moment we'll pop some little white dots on as well. And you could also add on the side where the light's shining, you could also add just a hint of orange. I think I do that as well, actually. So yeah, there's a hint of orange, and then we're just going to pop on a couple of little dots, if you want them, obviously. So that was a bit of extra orange I put on there. And now we're going to pop in the kind of firefly lanterny things. So it's a little bit of yellow, and then in a moment I will mix that yellow with some white as well and then put that in the centre of it, just so it looks like it's glowing a bit. But you can have as many of these as you want, or none at all. But if you've put the light down like I did earlier that's reflecting off the lamp, then you'll need to put a lamp in or it'll look weird. So even if you just put that one between the trees, because then I'm just mixing this yellow and white together and pop that in the middle. Don't need an absolute circle, you just want a little bit of a messy blob in the centre of it really. I'm just using my needle here just to flick the yellow out a bit. And here I've just got some more of the blue we used in the background for the trees and things, and I'm just putting a little bit more in because I thought it would help, because I've got a light bit on the fox's head there. I thought if I put the blue in here it would make the light bit on the fox's head stand out a bit more. And then we're just going to pop some extra toadstools, mushrooms, little flowers, anything you like, all around here, because I've had the red mushrooms, or toadstools rather, on the other side. That's why I've balanced them out by putting a bit on that side as well. And then in the two bottom corners I'm just adding it's a bit of a bluey green, just a little bit extra there, just to darken the two corners down really. And now we're popping on the leather part of his rope that goes around his neck, that's going to hold the little key, so it's like a necklace. I just did this in, I think it was dark brown rather than black. I thought the black would be too strong, so I did it in a dark brown. And I basically just had some bright yellow, or any colour you like for your key really, and I'm making a very rough key shape. I couldn't zoom in any closer, sorry about that, my camera just decided this was as close as it was going to get. But as long as it looks vaguely like a key, you'll be fine. And I did the gold, and then I outlined it in just a hint of black, really, really thinly, and just so it stood out a touch off his body. So it's so fine you almost can't see it. That's me trying to wiggle it around the key shape. And this is two just little dots that I put into, because I had a key that looks like a figure of 8 at the top, and I just wanted a dot on either side so it looked like there was a hole through it. I'm just adding a little bit of red. I wanted a little touch of something going down the back there. So that's what that was. And there we go. That's this week's picture. I hope you enjoyed it. Do let me know. Give me a like if you did. You may have enjoyed one of the videos on the screen now. If you'd like to join me over there. If not, I will see you next week for the next video. And thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.